Next up is Nicole Dreiske, author and educational innovator. Nicole is the executive director of the International Children's Media Center, where she helps create accelerated e-learning programs that boost cognitive engagement and empathy for children, youth, and adults. Nicole will talk about Screen Smart, tools for igniting our humanity before using technology. Nicole Dreiske, over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Suresh. What a lovely invitation and what a lovely introduction. Well, I'm going to dive right in because we only have 10 minutes for this. So my work with Re-humanizing, the way we work with children and technology, focuses on creating opportunities for discussion, for disclosure, for bonding and sharing around screens and technology, and to helping parents get to a fun, relaxed, interactive place while talking with their children. You see, for 70 years or so, experts have said, talk to your children about screens. And when I talk to parents, most of them say, well, I do that. I tell them what to watch and how much to watch and when to stop. Well, those are all worthy structures, but they're all directives. And there's a certain amount of parental stress that is detectable in making those directives. So there's a big difference between direction and discussion. In the workshop I'll present later, you'll learn how to create and use opportunities for that discussion. But first, we need to get rid of the myth that kids can go it alone with technology, and that better content or better software will solve the many problems that we're seeing at home and in school, the thousands of studies that talk about the erosion of empathy or elevated obesity from screen use or elevated aggression. We are in the 21st century parenting in concert with technology, and that's going to change a few simple things. First, something that might be surprising, we need to integrate the human and physical components into our thinking about all e-learning. Third, we need to establish, and this has to be at the beginning, who we are in relationship to technology. What holds value to us? There's a beautiful quote, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Who we are, being surrounded by extraordinary advances in AI and robotics and computer technology, doesn't mean that we are of less value than the devices we've created. The children don't get that. Exponential advances in technology do not mean that we or our children have any less potential or brilliance. We can and we must cultivate the power of human technology, of our brains, of our bodies, of our beings, if we are going to fully inhabit the tech space. We need to honor and develop this human technology alongside the electronic technology. If we do this, we can outrun the marketing algorithms and this sort of dystopic future that the social dilemma projects. So here's a quick thumbnail of how I developed this rehumanization process. I launched the first children's film festival in the Americas. It was movies. I worked with 500,000 children over 30 plus years, and I was trying to solve this conundrum of kids and screens from the content perspective. But what was different about this festival was that I published a 150-page curriculum every year. And every year I trained an army of facilitators who talked to every one of those 28,000 children who came to the festival. You can't just come to the festival to watch a movie. You have to learn how to watch a movie. Were you born knowing how to read a book? We would play with children to get them to watch in a different way. And here's what really shifted my approach. Almost 20 years ago, 2 pediatricians from the American Academy of Pediatrics came to one of my festivals. They were fascinated by the way I talked to children before each screening. And one of them said, "You're changing brain chemistry around screen time." Well, This changed everything for me. So 10 years ago, I left my big festivals and started an organization, the International Children's Media Center, to help schools and parents implement what I'd learned over 30 years of watching screens with children, but more importantly, listening to them talk. And in all those years, I learned one thing that we all need to do for and with our children. Focus on what to do before the screen goes on. Now think about it, why that's so important. Let's get ahead of the problem, right? Instead of spending all our energy trying to combat symptoms, once problems exist, let's get ahead. So to make that idea, what to do before the screen goes on, usable, to make it usable, I created something called Screen Smart. It's an accelerated learning program that I took to students and teachers and parents. And after 8 years of field testing, the nice folks who published the Chicken Soup for the Soul series asked me for a book. So I wrote a book so parents could do these techniques at home. In Screen Smart, to jumpstart the rehumanization process, we prime children's minds before they start using electronic screens. And that rehumanization process starts as a macrocosm from the larger cultural or family perspective. I mean, think about it. We didn't send our children to preschool or to the playground without some positive guidelines. When it comes to digital devices, to computers, to tablets, to smartphones, same rules, the same values and courtesy and kindness and caring that we use in our families apply to the way we use these things. But rehumanizing and priming are also carried through in the microcosm, through every interaction that children have with technology. I'll explain how that happens. We call it turning on the mind and heart before turning on the screen. And there are actually two parts to the approach: the intellectual, academic part, and the kinesthetic, physical part. You see, children need to use their bodies while they're learning, while they're using screens. And here's why. There is a lot of research all over PubMed, one of my favorite websites, National Institutes of Health. There's a lot of research showing that physical activity and exercise support brain function. Exercise is brain food. You move more, you learn better. So I created a series of fast, fun, brain-body exercises and micro movements that children and parents and teachers can do anywhere, even while watching a screen. First, remember, we're going to use priming to turbocharge the mind before the e-learning starts. It's actually impossible to overemphasize the importance of priming because it completely changes the dynamic of viewing and the dynamic of technology use. So I tell children, we're going to use our energy and our concentration to keep our minds awake. I'll show you how this is done in the actual workshop, because I don't just tell them that. We engage, the whole thing is interactive. We get them curious about what's going on in here while I'm watching this, while I'm engaging the technology. So this kinesthetic, physical part of the program boosts self-regulation and classroom engagement in 100% of students after only 30 to 60 seconds. You see, these are timely, simple strategies that can turn real or remote classrooms into dynamic learning environments. But the second part of the program is intellectual. It builds on the elevated energy and focus to boost academic and social emotional learning. And what we can do at home is to teach intelligence, empathy, and higher order thinking through co-viewing of short content using a technique that we call P&Q, pause and question. When we pause a video or a game, we'll ask questions like, well, how do you think that character is feeling right now? What do we see on the screen that might give us clues about that character's feelings? What would we do in a similar situation? What do we think we would do, and how might we change what we would do if we feel differently? With this pause and question, we're drilling down into how children watch and helping them become aware of what's happening in their minds and hearts while using technology. So when you put these two engines together, the kinesthetic brain-body techniques and the academic social emotional learning, you get true accelerated learning, and that crosses over into empathy. You see, Screen Smart builds on the fact that children love technology. They love screens. And if we give them a chance, they love thinking and talking about the ideas they have while using their digital devices. And here's why that's so exciting. Because when children talk about audiovisual content and make critical thinking connections and empathetic connections, they learn to process that content and build their own media filters. Seriously, they voluntarily watch less and pick better content and games to engage. And those are healthy tech habits that can accelerate learning. One of the most experienced and loving pre-K teachers that we worked with, out of perhaps 1,000, said, this program teaches kids how to focus and think. And it uses something they rarely think about: media, screen content, and technology to do that. And that is a huge step forward in remote learning, inspiring our children to love thinking and learning. That is the critical step in rehumanizing our relationship to technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that fast and furious dive into the world of technology and smart screens. Thank you.